The video that you're about to watch is an excerpt from a live webinar. If you enjoy the contents of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. From the level of consciousness, we have access to the more abstract levels of our own nature, right? So the divine is here, and it's qualityless and eternal and absolute. So when awareness goes into that eternal, absolute, qualityless ocean of transcendental being, it feels very natural and one feels very at home, but it doesn't have a lot of character per se. There's not a lot of character. It's all character. It's all character and no character. It's everything. It's everything at the same time. It just is. It cannot be described. It cannot be described. It can be experienced, but it cannot be described. However, as that rajasic energy, that's the spur, activates up the flow of intention from the source of creation, we get forms rising up that have a lot of character, that are archetypal forms, and our expressions are like concentrated packages of the laws of nature that reside down here, that are the byproduct of the humming flow, the flow of life force coming from the source of creation and coming into these regions of the causal body. Just like my air going in my bottle, right? It's just an empty space. So you say, well, the empty space isn't a musical instrument. It doesn't do anything. It's just empty space. But if it has that flow in it, then it becomes a musical instrument. How lovely is that? And so the same thing, the regions of the causal body, the regions of the causal body. So there's this region of the causal body that is responsible for all the laws of nature, all the laws. And that's like a really powerful part of self, of oneself. It has a name. Manu. Manu is the name. And the reason it has a name is that the sound quality of the word Manu is actually the frequency representation of that form of creation, because is the flow of the hum of the universe. Is the hum of the universe, and is totality and wholeness. So the hum of the universe reflecting into the source of creation. N is the negation, and U is like a modified ah. All the vowels are modified ahs, but it represents the chandas, or I could have also done a lot of tying together of sattva, rajas, and tamas with rishi, devata, and chandas, but I didn't do that. But anyway, chandas is it's like the expressed side, the known. You can just say it's the known. It represents the field of creation, the known. And sometimes as chandas resides down in the source of creation, it is that unmanifest, unknowable, indescribable being known. It is that being known. That's chandas. So Manu. Manu. Just as awareness can penetrate into the cellular structures of the body, so the awareness can penetrate into the causal field of self and find Manu. Manu is here. Manu is nurtured more by reverence, more with reverence and appreciation than with compassion. Manu is part of you. Manu, you. Manu is that aspect of you that's responsible for the manifestation of all the laws of nature. Yes, that is part of you. We have many parts. We are multifaceted, multidimensional. And in the heart, the connection to Manu stabilizes in preparation to ask the question, is the law of evolution really the first law of the universe? The answer that comes back is that it may be simple to say evolution is the first law of the universe without defining evolution. Okay. Like, I wasn't expecting that answer, but okay, that's good. And that if we define evolution in terms of the truth made manifest, then yes, the truth made manifest. The vision of it sort of unfolding for me, so that's why I'm being quiet. It's a big vision. The truth is that the unmanifest being expresses itself as all this universe. That's the truth. That's the one truth. And yes, that's the one, that's the fundamental of the universe. So good and evil. Let's talk about good and evil for a minute. In this creation, we define good as that which upholds evolution, that which allows the truth with a big T, to find expression in this world of boundaries and limitations and partial truths, right? Because if there's one big truth, there's like one big truth, and it's really big and it's indescribable and unknowable, then here in the material level of creation, there's what? There's only going to be like pieces of the truth and aspects of the truth and flavors of it and segments of it like that. At any given moment, only a specific limited number of laws of nature can manifest. Because there are laws of nature that all the laws of nature, there's so many they cancel each other out, right? So if you have all the laws of nature at once, they just cancel each other out. So because we have a world that is describable and experienceable, then it means that at any given moment, there's only certain laws of nature that are manifesting. Good is that which aligns with the current laws of nature. It works with the laws of nature and the creation as it exists right now to produce an evolutionary effect. And that even means horrible things. That even means if terrible things happen. I'll give you an example. I don't mind being a little vulnerable. So prior to today's webinar, I was out in the garden and I was just finishing up, and there was a woman walking by my house. I didn't recognize her. And I was trying to manipulate my wheelbarrow that was filled, overflowing to the brim with the weeds I had dug out of the garden. And my knee pad caught on the handle of the wheelbarrow and the whole thing tipped over. And it's like, I saw it in slow motion, and it's almost like there were moments when I could have chosen to move my body slightly differently so I did not tip over the wheelbarrow. But I tipped over the wheelbarrow. And the timing was perfect. And she was like, oh dear. And she came over to help me. Well, it just so happened, even though I didn't recognize her at first, she was a dear old friend that I had been thinking of and hadn't seen for 20 years. And if I hadn't tipped over my wheelbarrow at that minute, at that moment, she would not have come over, and we would not have had a moment to reconnect with each other. After all these 20 years, I was literally thinking about her just before she walked by. And I was thinking, I wonder how she's doing. I wonder how her children are, like that. Okay. But she changed quite a bit. So when she was walking by, it was like, oh, is that her? Well, I don't know, but I made myself a little vulnerable, right? I fell over it didn't hurt myself. It was nothing. It was like slow motion. Like every movement of my body was like carefully orchestrated practically. So, It was almost just like a show, just to get her to come over and help me with my wheelbarrow. But anyway, but you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Tipping over your wheelbarrow in front of a stranger. How embarrassing. Here I am. I should be better than like to not fall, right? But it was so perfect. It was so meant to be. It was so fulfilling. It was so useful for the evolutionary flow of my life and of her life and for our family's lives and for my day and for moving forward and for satisfying that urge that I had to see my friend, you know? You just take that negative, that little embarrassing moment and just turn it around into something so delightful. So I wouldn't, if I had to go back and do it again, would I have done it any other way? Maybe I would have looked past the sunglasses and the hat and all the coverings that she had on and went, wait a minute, that's my friend, and yelled her name to her. I might have, but I might not have because I wasn't looking that carefully at her. Just the feeling was there. I recognized her. I felt her soul. And I'm like, I got to get her to come over here. What is good and what is evil? Falling down with your pile of weeds, that's kind of bad. But it's good. And the difference between good and evil is completely on how we position ourselves and approach the situations and circumstances that come our way. So we can say, yes, evil is whatever that expression of creation is that's engaged in not evolving. And what causes non-evolution? Separation from the source of creation. A deep-seated like commitment and belief and adherence to I am separate. I am not connected to wholeness. You can't escape being connected to wholeness. You are wholeness. Like that's the truth. And anything that tells you otherwise will elicit a feeling of anger. Because deep inside, we all know the truth. But on the surface of life, there are so many forms and phenomena that are telling us otherwise. And when those forms and phenomena rise up and have their day, when darkness has its day, evil has its day, then it gives rise to feelings of rebellious feelings like, but no. And that's the purpose of anger. You could say, well, anger is evil, right? Because anger spurs people to do bad things. And so, well, in its potential, when it's being leveraged, when you're living your full potential and you're leveraging all the feelings that you have, part of those spectral rays, right? You're leveraging them for their full potential. Then anger becomes an energy that helps reveal the truth. And that's what anger is here for in this world. I finally realized. It's said, and I think it's even said in the Vedas, that anger is like the great enemy here on earth. I think it's called a great enemy here on earth. But that's conditional. Anger is the great enemy here on earth when people aren't using it, when they're not recognizing its potential and using it for its purpose. And its purpose is it focuses in like an arrow. It's almost always associated with something, some situation or circumstance or person or something. And anger zeroes in on that thing. And it zeroes in on it because that's the spot where the truth is not the real truth, the big truth with a big capital T, is not conjoined with what's showing up at the surface. And the anger is this wonderful, very lively, like powerful energy. It's got a lot of oomph in it that allows the shroud, it allows the shroud and the camouflage to be peeled away from circumstances and situations at the surface of life so that the truth can shine forth and radiate. It radiates. And sometimes it even becomes active and expresses itself. But with the anger, it's not that the situation calls for you bubbling up and yelling and like that. The anger is directed through the channel of truth. It has to be directed through the channel of truth. So you speak the truth. You say the truth. You don't have to say it in a harsh way. Let the universe do that. Let the universe, because there are times when people are stubbornly holding on to non-truth, and when people are sending that message to the universe, I am stubbornly holding on to non-truth, then the universe is like, well, you know what? I'm going to need to smack you a little bit to get you to see the truth. But you don't have to be that person. You don't have to be the deliverer of the smack. Say the truth. Just say it. Say it and give the person, whoever they are, or the situation, a chance to resolve itself. Gracefully, with dignity. And then if they don't, let the universe take the next step with them. That's all. It's simple. And hopefully the universe will be discerning in that process, just as you were discerning when you just spoke the truth. Good and evil. Good and evil. So good adheres to evolution, and evil adheres to non-evolution. And non-evolution can be summed up in being gripped or held in the material level of creation as separate from the source of creation. And that is also, to a certain degree, the description of what is tamasic. Tamas, as was described in yesterday, I read from the Gita, and you can look for yourself, chapter 2, verse 45, if you want. Maharishi's commentary is, if you get this one that's got Maharishi there, you can see what he says about it. But the point is that tamas is that energy that binds or holds the creation into the relative field and holds it as separate. It can hold it as separate from the absolute. Eventually, I made all these diagrams yesterday. Oh boy, did I make some. My best one was the messiest one. Did we see what happened to that? Oh yeah. So I don't have to make it again, right? I made a bunch of this is my favorite diagram here, this one. The messy one. And what I was showing in this diagram, it still smells like a like a Sharpie marker. What I'm showing in this one is, let's see, I was showing how different life forms, these could be human lifetimes, or these could be different causal structures. They can be all kinds of, but anyway, how they rise up out of the creation like this. They rise up with the intention. Right here is the intention of the truth, living truth, the intention for the living truth. And it rises up and it's like, I'm the truth, I'm the truth, I'm the truth, I'm the truth, I'm the truth. Oh, I'm gripped by what's going on. And I feel like I'm so caught up in what's happening here. I've lost my connection to wholeness. Oh, we come back. And then it rises up again, only this time higher, right? Because when it comes back, something gets modified. We're going to talk about that in a minute for the next question. It rises up, but it rises to a little bit, oh gosh, it's really hard to draw like this, to a little bit higher level like that until it gets gripped. And then it's drawn back home again. But eventually what happens, this cool diagram, is that in and out and in and out and in and out happens again. And the form itself, and this is what we're doing in our physical forms as well, you guys. This is what energy healing is all about, is refining the form, refining the actual material form to the point that the form is so refined, it cannot find itself separate from the source of creation. It's all of this. And there's no more in and out and in and out and in and out. It's just the form is so refined and the consciousness is so refined that all of it's just the one. And it can happen at this level here, and it can happen all the way up at the physical material level here, that it's just one, it's one, it's one, it's one, it's one, it's one. It's all one. It's all one. And there's no feeling of going, then there's no more feeling of going in and out. There's no more, that's when you transcend the cycle of birth and death too. There's no more birth and death. It's just wholeness. I'm just wholeness living in a human body. That's all. and wholeness, your wholeness. The thing is, you did this when you were in a subtle body, all the way, and you transcended the subtle body regions of expression. And then you got a chance to come up and be in a grosser body. And then you did it again in a grosser body, in an astral body, again, billions of years, until you did it. And you're like, in this astral body, I am one, and I know I'm one, and I got that. I learned it. I got it. Then you got to transcend up, and then you got to form up. Then you got to take a form that's even more dense, even more expressed, and then even more expressed. And now we're in these physical bodies, even more expressed. And we get to do it again, until we've learned to handle the physiology to such a degree, become so refined that it's just, we know I am one. I am that. I am that experiencing human experience. So much love, so much sweetness flowing right now to help create a bed or a context to allow that to happen, and to allow all the little pieces, bits and pieces and parts of ourselves that we think of as insufficient and not good enough to easily, gracefully, with dignity, shift the way they need to shift, right? Just bringing out the truth. You're just bringing out the truth, and the parts that need to shift are allowed and able to shift with dignity. And it doesn't create stress in the system. It doesn't overwhelm the system. It just is what you're doing. This is just who you are and what you're doing. And I think it's really the love and compassion that allows that to happen. And the love and compassion also is evolving. It becomes greater and greater. The system or the physiology has a need for greater and greater impulses of that softness, that sweetness of love to be present in order to make the bigger shifts, the bigger turns. It's a big love. Big loves come to make the big turns. It opens up new chambers of the heart. We're opening new chambers of the heart.